What's
We're live. Yeah, Romark Weiss, thank you, man, so much for carving out some time to join us on the Stones of Strength podcast. We really, really appreciate your time.
No worries, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess just to sort of paint some context for everybody. So Romark is a co-creator, videographer, producer for a series on YouTube that's found on Martins Licis' YouTube page called Strength Unknown. It's an awesome series where, essentially you and Martins travel the world to try to find strength. And it's not strength in the conventional method or form that you would find like at a strongman meet or at a powerlifting meet. Like, you're finding strength that's either displayed or attained in an unconventional way or in an unconventional environment. And like, you immerse yourself in it, you participate it, and you document it
very well.
Yeah. And it kind of, led you to your most recent trip, which was to Scotland, where congratulations, you became a Dinnie Stone lifter. And then you also, you traveled around with some local Scottish strength royalty and visited a number of the historical stones, which, is really sort of the premise of this show, where we talk about historical stones, natural stones, strength history as it pertains to stone lifting. So, man, we were so excited when we saw that episode come out, because you did right by anyone who is a fan or involved in stone lifting. It was so well done. So,
have you been to Scotland?
Yeah. About a year. Yeah, I lifted the Dinnie Stones a year ago, just a few days ago, and then we went all around the country and did like 12 or 13 stones, and we went to Brett Nichols' house and lifted some of his stones and the Nichols stones, and so we did that was our first historical stone tour. And next year we're planning to go to Iceland to do a bunch of
stuff. Doing a stone tour is like one of those things where it's like, you plan in Scotland, you think of Edinburgh or those like mainstream.
Glasgow,
Glasgow, but like, no, I want to go to Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Lift stones, and it's definitely one of the things that I highly recommend. If you want to see true Scotland and not like capitalistic tourism. So that doing that tour was so organic.
You don't have to be a stone lifter in order to get off the beaten trail and explore the back roads and some of the untouched parts of these countries. But it sure as hell helps when you've got a goal to go and seek out a stone in a graveyard that's way, way, way off from the main course or the main, transportation corridors, and you can kind of go out there and have that purpose to go and explore. So
and it was the journey for us. I was like, wow, like going through these like beautiful, luscious green mountains, and then next thing you see is a Scottish cow right next to you. It's like wow, where are we?
So, absolutely. We went way, way up north to the Strathmore of Durness, which it's getting close to the top. And talk about the journey, like we rented a Mercedes and we kept bottoming out because it was this single track trail. But then cruising up the top of the mountain, and there was like at some point there was like two rainbows up there, and then you see a Pictish Brock that's 2,400 years old, and you go up a little further, and here's this massive lifting stone, and it's just such a neat way to see the country.
For sure. Highly recommend it. Definitely fly into Aberdeen, rent a car, and then just go to Smash and Pass for the map, or to oldmanstrength.com for the map.
Old Man Stones, great.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, speaking of exploring and experiencing sort of niche strength and historically significant strength cultures, I mean, you have been to so many awesome places and immersed yourself in so many cool strength cultures. Like, where did the idea for Strength Unknown come about?
It started from the beginning of our YouTube journey. So if you go back to 2018/19, Martins was like the second strongman YouTuber behind Brian Shaw. And so we would make YouTube content, and that was our bread and butter, right? We train with Thor, we train with Juji Mufu, and we travel around to all these different athletes to train with them. Then every other strongman started making YouTube videos, and then the content became repetitive. Our views wasn't the same thing, so we had to pivot to something far more unique. And in a time where YouTube becomes more douchey with strength, we went completely opposite and really just embraced it. Like, we want to portray that being strong is not a douchey sport. It's like you could be my size and have fun and travel to these amazing places. And Strength Unknown is heavily influenced by Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown.
Right. Yeah.
And he had the same concept too. It was just like, find a local, get him a beer, talk to him about how get the locals, what the locals eat, and just fully immerse yourself on unknown strength. And Martins and I known each other for 10 years, and through those 10 years before YouTube, we went to Kyrgyzstan, Yakutsk, Russia, Moscow, and all these different places before we even started a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So you guys have seen a lot together. Then that's very, very cool.
For sure, man. Yeah, we went to the middle of a country called Kyrgyzstan, Lake Issyk, Kyrgyzstan, for the first inaugural Nomad Games, which was, talk about like weird strength sports. That was like the Olympics that you don't see on TV. There was like people riding with fire and horses, hawk hunting, and then we were just covered. We were surrounded by like mountains and desert, and I remember it was in May. Lake Issyk was so beautifully. It was so beautiful. It was like blue, but across the lake, it felt like an ocean. But you saw the mountains, but it had snow and thunderstorms, and right next to it was a desert. It was
that's cool.
Bizarre.
It was so bizarre, man, and definitely would love. I highly recommend Kyrgyzstan. Third world countries are the best place to go to, for sure.
Yeah. We've both done quite a bit of traveling, not around strength, but just for tourism and backpacking. And I would agree that's where there's just so much character when you really immerse yourself into some of those places.
Oh, dude. One of my favorite quotes is from his documentary called 180 Degrees South. Is like, when everything goes wrong, that's when adventure happens.
Yeah, right. So, fair enough.
Yeah.
So when you're picking places for your show, do you pick it on, do you go, there's this country I'd really like to go to and research the history in the country? Or do you hear about the sport specific and go, where is that? And then go to whatever country has that sport that you're interested in?
Honestly, man, it's kind of both. It's not like, I wanted to lift the Dinnie Stones, and fun fact, a few people lifted the Dinnie Stones in climbing Mount Everest, which is a weird data to flex. But
you've done Everest?
No, he's saying
no. More people. I thought Everest you said and Stones. Like, holy shit!
No, more people have done Mount Everest than lifted the Dinnie Stones, which
that's very strange.
It's a very weird thing, right? So totally. I wanted to lift the Dinnie Stones because I had a little taste of the replicas in Rogue.
Yeah. Right.
And I did it in Crocs with no training. But then I was like, I could lift the originals. So and then that was like the year before we went full speed with Strength Unknown. And so like we wanted to do Basque Country. Which I feel like they perfected the technique of sone lifting. Yeah. Those guys are so meticulous and
very efficient.
They're very efficient. They do that for 30 minutes, like as Scotland does it for one rep. Like
the work capacity is off the chart.
Work capacity is amazing. So, and then I was like, we could really do something about the show. So, and honestly, it's just like the more we do it, the more we learn how to do it and there's planning. Like for the Japan trip, since it's a language barrier, we did a lot more research on it. And dude, we're planning really hard for this trip. And unlike Scottish stones, right? There's like only hearsay history about it.
Right.
These guys actually engraved who lifted the stones in these stones.
Oh, so wow. Wild.
That's really cool.
That is really cool.
Literally written in stone.
Yeah.
Really written in stone. So some of these stones are like 500 years old. That actually like written 500 years old. The year they lifted it.
No kidding.
Yeah, wow. And there's like 900 lifting stones in China or Japan that no one's. No, they just
power
stopped.
stones, right? Or stones of power is the translation.
So they're, I forgot that it's like Giro Shio, which is definition stone, lifting stones.
Yeah.
And they're just mostly placed in these like shrines across all Japan.
That's so cool.
So amazing. And they do what some people call like the cold start, where they actually, instead of like the Scottish style where you put wind beneath the stone so you pick it up to your lap and stand with it, they squat down. It looks like for a lot of the stones, because they're smooth and elongated, and they wrap their hands around it and kind of bear hug it right from the floor and pick it up that way from a lot of people.
Yeah. There's like no technique there yet. So there's multiple sides. We're visiting one of the most advocate stonelifting there. Yeah. And there's like a stone historian that has been documenting stones for like his whole lifetime. So we're gonna visit him as well. Wow. So I look forward to seeing that's gonna be a journey, because like going back to these stones, we found out that these like, so going back to answering your question, these research, man, like, so we're doing more research because like sumo wrestling in kanji actually stands for strong man. Right. And like the two letters, the two kanji letters now has been adapted to sumo wrestling. So if you look at the two letters, it just says sumo wrestling. But if you translate it to English, it means strength man. Oh, so I was like, so strongman sport has been there for thousands of years.
Yeah, is that ever cool?
Oh, that's
so we're going to go.
That was one of the earlier World's Strongest Man competitions as well, too. Didn't they have sumo wrestling in one of the early ones?
Yeah. Like
way back, though.
Way back. I wouldn't. That's not strength. That's just technique.
There's tons of it. Yeah. Well, speaking of wrestling, that Mongolian episode you did was just so wild.
Yeah, dude. Do you guys grapple at all, or do?
Yeah, we both grew up wrestling and competing.
Yeah. To see what those guys did, trying to go into like a 500-person pool of athletes, irrespective of weight class, and then just the best person on the day comes out at the top. That was, and like just that guy who won, meat brick. Like, dude,
just amazing. He was thick. He was bulldog thick. And that was a culture shock too, because and the more we dove into that, actually I'm glad I did more research and trying to find like an American side of it, and we found the American Han guy. But these Mongols don't like tourism or journalists, so they would just say anything they want. So when we were looking at the internet, all these informations kept contradicting each other. Like
they're trying to confuse you and get you off the trail.
They do. Like, just like, hey, we told you something, pay us money now, kind of thing.
Oh, I see.
So it was. I'm glad we found someone from Inner Mongolia, because now he's like in it. He's like the only one that speaks English, and he's and there's like that culture. They have like this Mongolian. They have a stone lifting culture too. They have like the Mongol stones, and then they have like, they have something called a camel yoke run, pretty much, where they carry a camel and they go for max distance on their back. Yeah.
I'm assuming they're all sharing the same camel, though, so the weight is... No.
Oh, it's like you have to catch a camel, you have to tie the camel, carry it on your back, and go max distance, something like that. So...
That's extraordinary, though. Talk about what you can available to you. Yeah.
Talk about farm boy strength. These guys have nomad strength, man.
Yeah. That's extraordinary.
There's always, these, I don't want to say like fairy tales about, the farmer who got a calf or baby cow, and he lifted it when it was a day old, and then he lifted it was 2 days, and every day as the cow got older, he would lift this until he was lifting a full-grown cow. The Mongolian guys are actually lifting full-grown camels and walking with them.
That's Milo, man. That's an ancient Greece story.
Is it what
I believe Milo?
Yeah, Milo.
Progressive overload.
I think rural Alberta adapted it a bit to make it
possible.
It's just we want to go back and hang out with the American Han guy, Lavelle, because he has inside now. Like, these guys could deadlift 800 pounds with bad technique, and they're majority of them are hopefully they're natural. I don't know if they're like, I don't know. I can't really tell if they're people natural anymore. So it's like,
yeah, fair.
These guys are strong, man.
Sure.
I feel like they're the best choice of representation of World's Strongest Man if they know what they're doing. So
yeah, that's right. And probably there are those strength cultures that just by way of familiarity with the greater strongman community, or access to training resources or funds to travel, like it's untapped potential.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Untapped potential. Yeah.
I have like a low side quest where I just find these like sumo wrestlers, Mongolian wrestlers, and just train them for strongman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
fabulous. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because some of them, it's hard to tell in the video. Like some of them look like absolutely massive. Are they similar or comparable in size to Martins?
So Martins is. Hold up, someone's at the door.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Did someone knock? I think someone knocked. Sorry.
No,
Martins is 6'3", 330 pounds. Some of these guys make Martins look like really small people. It's one guy was like 6. I swear, majority of them were 6'5". Yeah. So there's potential there.
Yeah, that's
incredible.
It's not hard to fathom how the Mongols were such a dominant force historically, conquering and taking over. Like, imagine a 6'5" necklace barbarian on the back of a horse, completely accurate with a bow. Like I'm hiding in the nearest ditch.
For sure, they're legendary.
That and the Icelanders too, man. Like look at Thor. Like it's like we thought I thought Martins was big until we went to Iceland, and like then when you go to like a grocery store in Iceland, when the cashier's bigger than you, I'm like, Jesus Christ.
I had the first sort of experience realizing how average or below average I am in height in some of these places when I went to Amsterdam and had to stand on my tippy toes. Like I'm almost 6'1", I had to stand on my tippy toes to pee in the urinal at a Starbucks. And I was like, what's going on here? And then I came out and I looked around and like the barista's 6'4" and all the people in line are taller than me. I was like, right.
Yeah, Viking blood, man.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
It's all, and I'm sure if you dove deep enough into one of the historical rabbit holes on Viking culture or Mongol culture, like you always wonder, like, were they such dominant forces because the people were naturally bigger, or did the way they lived and did that essentially artificial evolution? Like, did the people become big because the smaller ones did not survive? They didn't eat enough. Like it's kind of like the chicken, right? Like which one was it first?
It's like the crab theory, the Darwinism, right?
Yeah, like, we're preferentially selecting for giant people because they're the ones who survived conflict, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like if you go back, if you want to go rabbit hole, they're like the Vikings did not conquer the Baltics because of their size, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So because they had their own savages called the Baltic Vikings, and Big Z's from the Baltics, Martins is from the Baltics.
Right.
So,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so you talk about selective, like they were smart. They were smart people.
Yeah, and I wonder. I mean, even the things like the stones, the full Sturker stones, the fact that those are tiered stones to reward people based on their physical strength, maybe points to the fact that it was a bit more selecting for the bigger warriors rather than the other way around. So,
and you said that.
Can you just imagine big Thor? Like you're just farming one day. And then Thor just running down the hill with a fucking sword. just take it, dude. Just take it, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's one of the things, actually, I suppose, that gives credence to how hard the Scots were, too, because the Picts, the northern Picts, they held off the Vikings up there. And like that, where the Strathmore of Dinnie came is kind of where the Vikings met the Picts, and they didn't make it much further down. They had to come up from the bottom, it seemed like. So that's what's neat. The Scots were so much smaller than a lot of the historical like Vikings, but still pretty tough bastards.
Yeah.
Speaking of pretty tough bastards and Scots, how did you get connected with Brett Nichols in the the lead up to your trip to Scotland?
I mean, being friends with Martins has its benefits for sure. But like it was actually my friend Billy Crawford.
Yep.
Yeah, Bill Crawford's son.
Yeah,
I gave him a nickname called BBC, which is really funny. Big Billy Crawford.
That's good.
So I even gave him a shirt. I even made a shirt. It's like $20. Says BBC.
Did he
Small
wear it?
letters. Oh, for sure.
That's
It's white. It's
hilarious.
white.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, he's a legend himself, right? Because he literally, with Martin Jancic, wrote the book on stone lifting.
Oh yeah, his father for sure.
We're talking about Junior.
Oh, Junior.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's him in too.
Strong guy.
Well, that's what I was picturing. Dr. Bill Crawford wearing
a
this BBC shirt.
Maybe you need to get BBC senior shirt.
Yeah,
yeah. He's dude. Yeah, so I got through him. He hooked me up with Brett Nichols, and then like, I didn't want to like overstep the Stoneland documentary, which emphasizes the stones for sure. I wanted when I heard Brett Nichols, I wanted to focus on the characters around why they did it.
Yeah,
and so like, yeah, the Stoneland documentary focused on Billy Crawford and Martin, but it's the weird people that freaking travel 3 hours to just lift a stone.
Yeah,
that's why I want
weekly. Like there's some guys who are going on weekly stone tours. Just
yeah.
Oh, and I think you did, like, I know for sure, like you did right by Brett. You did an awesome job covering some of the characters that were there, showcasing their feats of strength, but also like, and it comes through in all of the episodes, is that like you and Martins have such a great relationship. You're so easygoing and having so much fun that you sort of give people a window into seeing what it would like if they were there traveling with their buddies. For most people who will never get that experience, right? But it comes across very genuinely in the episode. So
I mean, yeah. Well, that's strongman culture in itself, right? Right? Like you watch our videos, you'd be like, oh, that's wholesome. But then when you watch Bradley Martin videos, it's like, I have to be a douchebag. Yeah, like I have to be
yeah, absolutely.
So like, I wanna. One of the reasons why we did Strength Unknown and approach it to be like a wholesome content, because strongman people, like the strength community is one of the best communities in the world, man. They're like, we have the ability to talk people from Canada and just share the same universal language.
Yeah.
And just really just hang out. And like, I know eventually we'll get to know each other and we can banter each other, you know? Like,
for sure. Yeah.
Without like, and that's the cool part, because like, growing up, before we started the training hall, I was a banter guy. So like training with Ode Haugen, Mike Gillert, Martins, Sean, I was the smallest one. So all I did was just talk shit to them the whole time. It was every day. It was like, you just talk shit back and like push each other to the limit. But like, that's what my experience was. Like we helped each other out and motivated each other. So.
That the Odd Hogan tombstone is a stone I would love to try someday.
Oh yeah.
It's such a neat one.
Every time I remind, it's like, hey, your funeral is gonna be a contest.
Because I've actually referenced that stone in the past on this podcast, because it's 410 pounds. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and I know it was in the World's Strongest Man, or pardon me, in the Arnold's. I think it was 2018 or 2019.
Yeah. Multiple times now.
Okay.
Like 3 times, yeah. Matusz Kwiatkowski is like the savage of it.
Because how many times did he shoulder it that one time? Was it 4?
4 times. He said he got, when I was messaging him when he pulled out, he could do it for 6 times. Once you know the technique, it's fascinating.
Yeah,
so. It is. Yeah, and that is what I've mentioned. Like I was saying about that before, because it shows the specificity of the talent required to be a good stone lifter. Because you've got these guys there that can probably deadlift 800-900 pounds, some of them, and they couldn't even lap a 410 pound stone, and that's with the tacky towel, right? And so it just kind of shows you how it's such a very specialist type activity.
Oh yeah, and then you know what's crazy? So Martins did it twice at the when he won, and then we went to Basque Country, and he's like, "Yeah, you did that whole technique wrong."
Oh yeah,
I was like, "What?" And you actually now, like, spending some time, like, we have adapted some techniques from the Basque Country that we would love to apply, because it takes less effort and it's amazing. And it's like the fact that they grab the stone from the bottom and lift it up and just pretty much one motion it all the way up. Right. They have actually proven in it with like a 350-pound stone. A guy my size, he just grabbed the stone similar to the old tombstone. It was very natural, but he grabbed it from the bottom and leveraged it up to his shoulder, like no joke. So
easy. You need a very specific stone for some of those, though, is the side, like, because if you're not putting wind beneath the stone, you have to have the right shape and everything to be able to tilt it up. So it's super efficient, but you do need a specific stone or a specific shape at least.
Yeah, for sure. You know the history behind that stone, that old tombstone?
Very basic, but can you please inform everyone?
Yeah, so Ode was remodeling his pool in his backyard, and then he goes up. He's like, "I like this stone," and he picks it up. It was supposed to be a decoration for his pool. And then
that's how that stone became famous.
Yeah, it became Ode's tombstone. Yeah, and then his wife named it. His ex-wife named it the Tombstone.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Because did you grow up next to Ode? Is that right?
Yeah. So I grew up since he moved in from Norway when I was 9 years old. So pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
So, and then like he had his son, same 1 year younger than me. And for us to play video games, we had to work out for a bit and then play video games.
Yeah.
So I learned how to clean, squat, and do all the basic stuff for a long time.
Yeah. What an amazing mentor to have.
Yeah, seriously.
And I'm obviously assuming that was kind of what inspired you to become such a big part of the strength community, is growing up next to him.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where, like, you know, you talk about like you're like in middle school, you talk about how cool your life is. Like, yeah, my neighbor's a strongman kind of thing. So like, so you grew up talking about that, and then you come to the age where you start like hosting contests. Like I started mixing the strongman series in Venice Beach and started helping him up. I started doing the production side of it when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
I think so. Yeah, it's just. At that moment, it was just so natural for me to do. Like every strongman event, I'm here to help kind of thing. And then it grew to a bigger thing.
What a beautiful way to marry up like a profession adjacent thing, which is like the videography, within your passion, which is like strength sports. And now you've added travel to the mix and all this other stuff.
That's like a dream.
Yeah.
My goal is to just encourage people to live beyond the barbell. You know, like,
couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
So
mantra of this too. Yeah.
It's like have you look up Tibet stone lifters? They use a rope to lift stones.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Same with places in India as well. It's like leather handles that you pull apart. Like
those Indian lifters are just like that section of the world right there. It's just like. It's just fascinating.
They do where they've got 300-pound stone that they just launch from the ground up and then they balance it. Yeah,
I want to see it. I want to see it because like we all know what 180 kilogram stones feel like. Like it's heavy, right?
Yeah, it's heavy, man.
Yeah,
but those guys make it look like it's like a kettlebell. I'm like, what? Like so
the world gravity's working a little differently.
Maybe. Actually, Martins and I are so scientific. Like we calculated the weakest point of gravity in the world. So if we ever wanted to break the 501 deadlift, we want to.
That is hilarious.
Oh, that's
in Peru, by the way. If you guys want to go to Peru,
okay. I've actually been there. Did you go?
No, I didn't make it down to Peru.
Right, you were in Venezuela. Yeah.
So that's the weakest where gravity feels the weakest. So
no, man. Funny. That's
like very minimal, but like how funny. So like I know like Thor has so much shit for his deadlift, but like gravity's heavier on the top of the sphere.
Yeah.
So if you want to be like scientifically, he had the heaviest deadlift in that point of the world.
That's so specific. That's hilarious.
Because the Earth isn't a perfect sphere, so it's sort of at which point are you the furthest away from the core? Interesting.
Yeah. So
I'm a geologist by profession, so this kind of stuff I'm loving too. So
yeah. So it's like, so if you want to pull 502,
Yeah.
Peru.
502 in Peru.
502 in Peru is right.
There's
Yeah.
the mission. Yeah.
That's too cool. And you know, back to, you know, we were talking about the lifters like in India and that part of the world and how powerful they were. I would have to imagine the same ideas within Iceland and Scotland, a lot of these countries, is there was a huge warrior culture there in the past. And so I think all this strength is the trickle down effect of generations and generations of warriors.
Yeah. I know that for Iceland and Scotland and all the Europeans, yes, that's the warriors. But I know for like the Basque people or the rural sports like India, they had to do it for their job.
Right.
Okay.
It was just what they do for a job. I had to fact check this. So my sport ambassador in Pakistan, the stone lifting you see in Pakistan.
Yeah.
What, to my understanding and what translation is like it's like a wedding ceremony.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay.
So like if all the groomsmen couldn't lift a stone, the wedding's off, kind of thing.
How's that added pressure?
No doubt.
Yeah, right. So
little Peter ruined the wedding because he couldn't get the stone on his palm.
But like I gotta double check that, and we like history, we lose things in translation over time. So we had, it's better to go to the source itself. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised though. Like even in Sweden, there was a lot of it was the farmhand stones, right? So like it was less about the actual war aspect. Like for instance, in the manhood stones, that specifically is for teenagers to be able to start training with weapons. But again, some of the Swedish stones were in order to be the same idea as the full Styrker of Dritvik, but it would be how much your pay was on the farm.
Yeah, exactly. So like going back to like Swedish and Scottish, like I didn't even think 2 and 2 together. Like the Highland Games is just one trial for warrior. I was like, there's like the hammer throw, and then like think about like this how heavy those claymore swords were.
Those broadswords,
yeah. So like I just like again like we have adapted what we used to survive into a sport. So
for sure,
which is so cool though.
Yeah, for sure.
At least the way they continue with the heritage.
And it's neat to see, you know, when you travel to these areas where it is a sport, but those cultural ties are still so significant, right? And like it's part of ceremony, part of a way of life.
That's the whole reason. Like once you see how much of like again like strength unknown, it's like the essence of strength unknown. It's like once you see it in person, it's like, dude, we have to discover all this. Like we have to find out all these things, right? I think watching the stone lifters in Basque Country was amazing too, because it was like a crowd, had like a giant live feel,
right?
But like the crowd, so
yeah, it's there. One of our previous guests and a gentleman that coached me, a guy by the name of Ryan Stewart. Are you familiar with Ryan at all? Stu Squatch on Instagram?
No, I'm not.
I'm
sorry, but
no, that's fine. No, he's an ex-Highland Games pro. He is one of the leading researchers on many countries of historic stones, but he just went to the Basque Country in September. And from our understanding, he's the first person in North America. He actually got to compete, not just train, but he actually competed in some of the games there.
Oh, yeah. It's
super
How did you like it? How did you like it?
He, from like when messaging back and forth, I think it was a dream come true for him. We're hoping to have him back on to discuss it, because he kind of broke a bit of a cultural barrier there. Like it's one thing to go get to train there, but for him to be honored to actually compete is pretty wild.
Did he do the pentathlon or just a stone for reps? There's like multiple
stone for rep. Yeah, that's my understanding.
That's 30 minutes, man. Good luck.
Yeah.
And got medical attention afterwards, because he just went and he pushed to his absolute physical limits. So
he's strong.
Wow.
So strong.
Yeah.
This stuff's so cool.
And when he he got to do the best necktie with one of the stones in a museum and things like that. So it was a pretty cool experience for him too, getting to immerse himself in the culture as well as compete. So
yeah, dude, it's, again, like talk about geology, like you know, it's just a geology aspect. Like, you know how we have like these like layered rocks, right?
Yeah.
It's like flat.
Yeah,
there is like sideways, so it's
right.
like
Everything's been folded and tilted. Yeah.
And I was like, this is fascinating.
Yeah,
and it's like, wow, it's like talk about being earthy. This is legit.
I've created some serious problems for myself because I used to not be able to, like, let's say, drive through the Rocky Mountains in Canada without having to stop and check out rock outcrops and like inspect the mountains, and it holds up trips that way. But now, after becoming a stone lifter too, like anytime I like pass someone that has a nice stone in their garden, I'm like, oh, what's that made of? How big do I think that is? Oh, it's pretty good. It's kind of hard to commute around now without getting distracted. So
now, as a geologist, like when you lift these stones, you find like some stones are heavy, or even though they all look the same. Like I know the Fiona stone has like more iron in it, apparently.
Yeah. So there'll be marginal differences in density, and it might not seem like a lot, but when you're talking about a stone that's 300 pounds, like if it's 1% heavier than a stone of comparable size with a different mineral makeup, then like it does have an impact. The biggest thing for me that I think has it's like David says quite often, like it's the strength puzzle, right? So the biggest difference doesn't come around the mineralogy, but like how is the weight dispersed on the stone? Is there a lobe on one side that makes this hand picking up 250 and this one's picking up 150? What is the texture? One thing I found that was really difficult in Scotland, coming from full disclosure, I only started stone lifting just over a year ago. And so I was on like a 6-month crash course before we went to Scotland. David's goal was going there to lift the Dinnie Stones. And then I was like, well, if you're coming, you're going, I'm coming too, because I wanted to really get over to Scotland. And then our parents came as well. And it they're spherical and they're smooth. So you can see quite easily how the Atlas stones were adapted from the inverse stone and similar Scottish stones. Like the Castle Menzies stone is like perfectly polished. And that was so hard, being someone who didn't have the time to develop that like wrist and grip strength. Like luckily I got big, long monkey arms and I was able to interlock my fingers underneath there. Else I would have struggled. But those Scottish boys are just like, their squeeze strength is amazing.
Strong.
Yeah. How did you like so you for 1 year you started just lifting sandbags or something or just?
He didn't even have a year. You only prepped for like 4 or 5 months for Scotland. You did great.
In May, I had to do jury duty for a case that was pretty frustrating. The outcome was good, but I had a lot of pent up frustrations and emotions. And David, we live in the same neighborhood. I'm like, I got to come over and burn off some steam. So we went over, had a couple beers, lifted some weights, and he had some stones at his house. He's like, well, let's try them out. And so I was able to get a 292-pound one that I was able to get up to my chest. And I was like,
first time trying, which is
damn. Yeah, I was like, this is exciting. This is something I can do. And so we have an area that, speaking of geology, like by way of glacial processes near where we live, there's a huge collection of just big rounded or mostly rounded boulders that have been deposited on the riverbank. And so mostly David and one of our other buddies who handles that Beard and Boulder, who was on another episode, have dug them out, weighed them, and we have a site where we've got 20 or so different sized stones all in a small area that we go down and train with on Saturdays. So it was kind of me just figuring out like how much time I had before Scotland and trying to put in the work. I borrowed an Atlas stone from David and kind of just every time I would lift stones, and then I would do other accessory movements until I wasn't, the soreness had resolved enough for me to lift stones again. And it was kind of just like as much as I could. And, Ardvarlic was the only one I couldn't get to chest. I got it to my knees a couple of times, but I was lacking that squeeze strength that I need to get.
Ardvarlic, man, the 151 kilogram.
I love that stone.
Did you get that one?
Yeah, I stood up with it a few times. I wish my shouldering ability that I have now was there a year ago, because I would have loved to have tried to shoulder. I've shouldered 380 pounds at 212 pounds body weight, but Ardvarlic's obviously a very different shape, but I like to think I would stand a chance at least, but I have to go back.
When everyone was like telling me like, oh, this is going to be a hard stone to shoulder, and then Martins like just did it one time, I'm like, God damn it.
He's a different level than most humans though.
Because there's been other world-class strongmen that have failed to shoulder the Ardvarlic. So
yeah. It's just a technique, man. It's all about that technique, and we learned so much from the Basque. If you guys want to like perfect your stone lifting, go to Albedino and perfect your stone lifting and train with those guys, because those guys know what the hell they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. They're absolute tacticians.
Just learn Spanish or Basque.
Google Translate.
That might be a little tough. With actually that on the note of the Ardvarlic, that was something that kind of caught me off guard. Is there you guys had a bunch of crew photos with all the boys you were there with, and I couldn't believe how big some of those Scottish boys were. Like even next to Like I think it's Matt Jones.
Yeah,
And Jones. Yeah.
He's just huge. Like I think he was taller than Martins and looks almost bigger, which is crazy.
Same size. Yeah,
those are big boys. Some of them.
Yeah. I think Matt Jones is English, but
who is he? Okay, my mistake.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think the two guys, Connor was from the north, and then the beef guy.
Is it Connor Kern and Callum Beetham?
Yeah, he's very strong.
Yeah.
So
Mark Sheriff too, like just Brett Nichols, like you were out there with some of the best, which is and at least by way of, we met Brett in person and then have interacted with some of these guys over Instagram, like just humble, cool people.
Very cool people.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. How crazy is it? Like there's no like trespassing law in Scotland. You can just walk up to these stuff. It was like weird because like I was like, is that a museum? Because when we went to the Arvolic Stone, I thought it was a museum. But it was someone's house. I was like,
isn't it amazing? Like, was it from the 1600s that castle's there from?
The Arvolic one?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
500 years old or so, yeah.
Which has always been so cool to me when you think about how a lot of these areas have not industrialized, because you still have these sort of ancient castles, but have been maintained and some renovations done and landscaping and stuff, but they've left the stones where they should be and haven't moved them in. What was the story that you were talking about, the groundskeeper at the Arvolic?
Oh yeah, so a friend of mine had gone to the Arvolic just a few days after us. We didn't know each other at the time, but we ended up hooking up over social media after that and chatting about stones. But that was his second or third stone lifting trip, and so he actually went up to the castle to have a conversation with the groundskeeper there, and it actually ended up being the gentleman whose family had owned that. And he was having a nice conversation, and he just said to me, he said, "So how long has your family been here for?" And the guy just said, "Always." Which I just like, that's, I don't know, man. We're from Canada. Our country is very, very young. And we don't have that history, or documented history, I should say. People have been here for a long time, but not that documented history in the way of places like in Europe. But I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, when you see a bridge older than the States and North America, I was like, Jesus Christ.
It's amazing.
We'll get off the plane and see houses that are older than at least our country is officially of age. I
was walking around Old Town Edinburgh down some of the side streets, and just on this little door frame, it's like 1591. Like that was weird. Like, it blows my mind apart. Like I think it's just too cool. And people have been lifting some of the stones, like the Fianna Stone's been lifted for longer than that, which is amazing.
Yeah. And then something maybe just to touch on is that, and I really appreciated hearing this sentiment at the end of the Strength Unknown episode in Scotland, was the message of treat historical stones with respect. I think
for sure.
Stone lifting has been quite a niche and rare creature on the ecological landscape of strength sports, but it's becoming quite a bit more popular. And as it does, more people who maybe don't have as much of a deep appreciation will be seeking out these stones to test themselves, just to test their strength. But it is such an important thing for people to understand, like, these stones could very well be in a museum, but they're not. In order for us to prevent them from getting there, they need to be treated with respect. So it was really great to hear that message come through on that episode. So
it's one of those things where it's like, dude, So we, for Japan, stone lifting so new, there's no crash mat. So we had our mat send the crash mat to Japan for us. So hopefully so that now we can drop these stones, because these stones are like rare. Like,
right. Sure.
And talk about different cultures. Like, how our Arvolic stone was just there. There's a stone in Japan that was known in the town that I forgot. I'm going to butcher the name, but it's like Kameya something, Turtle Beach or something like that. And the stone was known for like sumo wrestlers to test strength, and they just put concrete around it. And like it is it's just there. No one does anything about it. It's just there, concrete cemented with modern.
So
that's amazing.
Oh man, I'm excited to see the episode.
I'm like kidding.
If you could pick one place or strength culture to visit, like no budgetary concerns, here's a pile of infinite cash, where would you go?
Damn, dude, that's hard. That's hard. Africa for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Africa. I would somewhere in Africa. Not. I feel like that's where the origins of everything came from. So,
sure. Yeah.
definitely would like to go see. Well, talk about stones, the pyramids, how they're made.
The feet of stone lifting. Yeah.
Like, it wasn't aliens; it was just a bunch of weirdos lifting stones.
Not a bunch of basque lifters and Mongolians.
They're like, we will build a pyramid to show our strength.
Yeah, for sure.
With your show, do you try and have a general timeline that you do an episode, or if you just get a really cool lead, you go, okay, there we go, we're rolling, let's go?
What do you mean, like how I edit the video, or just
no, just like when you find, for instance, like Japan, was this something you planned for a long time, or did you get some information and go, okay, we're gonna do this, and then jump on it right away?
It's a little bit of both. So we solidified our tickets to Japan 2 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, I was just backups editing. I wasn't able to read all the history. So this last week I've been just studying all Japan culture. So
awesome.
now we're ready, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
oh man,
I have a whole storyboard ready to go, and hopefully we can follow it. But yeah, that's where and then we secured some sumo stables, which is really hard to do too. So that's kind of cool to do. So that's about the
Have we seen Martins do some sumo wrestling?
Hell yeah, man! So,
okay,
yeah.
right on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
very cool.
That'd be kind of cool.
Have you looked into, and we don't want to keep you too long, we know you have another appointment, but just have you looked into any of the stuff that's going on with Ireland and the stone lifting history that's being uncovered there currently?
No, man. Like, again, like, it's cool. So we built this like platform, and people just send me messages like, "Hey, check this out," and I'm reading it. I was like, "Cool, let's go there next." I just added to the like list of countries we have to go, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
there's a gentleman named David Keown in Ireland, and he was one of our first guests, and he is this unbelievable character and brilliant man. And so he's basically been going through the old libraries they have online, with a lot of the culture and rediscovering all of these stones. They're at 30 now, and people are starting to send him stuff.
Wow.
And it's a huge thing. Like, there was actually just a big article done in GQ about it.
Yeah.
If you're curious at all.
Yeah.
And, dude, yes, send me all that, and I will add it to the list. Send me the guy.
Yeah. I said, can we let the strength of known folks know about you? And he learned about stone lifting, or became passionate about it during COVID. He was lifting his wife's sculptural stone statues in his backyard. He's a former kettlebell world champion, and to stay fit, started lifting stone sculptures, and then started doing research, went to Scotland, did a stone tour, and then said, like, how can we not have stones like this in Ireland? And he went back, and in the past 2 years has found over 30 historical Irish stones.
Wow.
He continues to find more week by week, and there's this national inertia now where people are now, he's been on a bunch of fairly prominent podcasts, and there's the GQ article. People are reaching out to him being like, I think there's a stone in my village. And he packs up his trailer and travels across Ireland and finds and lifts these stones. And he's also incredibly strong too. So he's quite often the first person in hundreds and hundreds of years that has lifted that's lifting these stones.
Wow. That's yeah, dude.
It's a great story. It's really cool.
Part of me is not surprised because it's like the same era of the same location.
Yeah.
So he's _ Indiana _ stones _ on Instagram. So
we can send you that.
Yeah, we can say that.
Send me all that. Yeah. Send me all you guys' Instagram. So
it was actually, we feel very fortunate in that GQ article that was just put out. They gave us like the Edmonton Stones of Strength and stuff. We started up here, and they kindly gave us a shout out in GQ, just being like that we're starting to be part of the modern reincarnation of historical stone lifting. So that was a huge compliment. We just started this a year ago, and so it's really cool to see like these historical stuff coming up again, and then there's these pockets of people starting their own modern stones of strength. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Isn't it crazy that like our history? Yeah, we have a lot of history about wars, but it always seems to be the common denominator is like a stone.
It's all over the planet. I mean, obviously stones are all over the planet, but like the more and more research that's going, this stuff is popping up everywhere, and it's just fantastic. And that's part of why we wanted to start this podcast, is to talk to people from all over the world, whether it's their modern stones or stuff like David Killen we were just talking about rediscovering the ancient stuff. And we just spoke to Brett Nickel about all of his stuff. So it's just been a lot of fun for us. Really fun project.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, cool people, cool characters, cool story.
What we're doing, man, is hopefully changing in the way of people thinking like, okay, I don't need to be a bodybuilder to get fit. I can just lift my sone in the backyard kind of thing. So,
enjoy like preserving history, making their own history. There's an aspect of culture to it,
the camaraderie,
and like a super, super cool thing. And so we just want to thank you, first of all, for your time, but for what you and Martins are doing for the entire strength community.
Of course, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. All the best in your trip to Japan. We can't wait to see the episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Speaking of which, I got one more meeting in like 5 minutes.
Well, we'll let you go. So thank you very much for your time.